My father brought a notary to my food truck at 6:12 in the morning and told me to sign before the biscuits came out of the oven. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't look at the burn on my wrist or the prep list taped to the cooler door. He just placed a folder on my stainless steel counter and said, "Mara, don't make this ugly. Your brother needs a real business, not a lunch wagon." I was 32 years old, standing inside Magnolia Maze, the blue and white food truck I had built from a dead delivery van behind a tire shop in Calhoun, Georgia. My hair smelled like fryer oil, my hands were dusted with flour, and I had been awake since 3, 4, 5, making pimento cheese from scratch. Outside, 3 factory workers were already waiting for breakfast. Inside, my father was trying to take the only thing I had ever owned without permission. Beside him stood my brother Travis, wearing a chef's coat so clean it looked rented. He had never worked a full Friday lunch rush in his life, but he had spent 6 months telling everyone in Gordon County he was opening a farm-to-table Southern concept downtown. My dad kept calling it a family legacy. Travis called it his dream. Neither of them mentioned that the bank had declined his loan twice, or that his dream apparently required my truck to disappear. The notary was a woman from my father's church, pale and nervous, holding her stamp like it might bite her. She avoided my eyes while Dad slid the paper toward me. Transfer of business assets. Assignment of mobile food service unit. Temporary surrender of operating license. The words blurred for half a second, not because I didn't understand them but because I understood them too well. My father had been doing this to me since I was old enough to carry plates. Travis got chances. I got chores. Travis got forgiveness. I got consequences. When he crashed Dad's Silverado at 19, it was boys make mistakes. When I dropped a tray of iced tea glasses at the diner at 16, Dad took the cost out of my paycheck and told me clumsiness was a character flaw. I looked at the folder, and then at my father's face. Dale Whitaker had the kind of authority men mistake for righteousness when no one has challenged them in years. His belt buckle was polished, his voice was low, and his disappointment came preloaded like a gun he always kept pointed at me. "Your brother has investors coming Thursday," he said. "We need the truck as collateral, and as a temporary kitchen, until the restaurant passes inspection." "We?" I asked. His mouth tightened. "Don't start." That was our family's favorite phrase for me. Don't start meant don't remember. Don't start meant don't name what happened. Don't start meant let Travis have whatever he needed and be grateful if nobody blamed you for needing something too. I had heard it at birthdays, graduations, funerals, hospital waiting rooms, and once in my own driveway, when Dad told me I was selfish for buying new tires instead of helping Travis catch up on rent. The funny thing was, Magnolia Maze had not come from family money. It came from 12 years of double shifts catering church luncheons for women who mispronounced my name, even though they had known me since kindergarten, and sleeping in a room behind my friend Lacey's salon while I saved for a commercial hood system. It came from burnt forearms, quiet mornings, and the kind of exhaustion that makes you cry while labeling containers of slaw. My mother used to call me May when I was little. Her name was Magnolia, though everyone called her Maggie, and she died before she could see the truck painted with her favorite flower on the side. Dad told people he helped me start it. That was a lie he liked because it made him sound generous. The truth was, he had laughed when I bought the van and said, "You're really going to sell biscuits out of a broken refrigerator on wheels?" Travis laughed too. Then 3 years later, when local offices started booking me for lunch events and the hospital staff knew my Tuesday menu by heart, he began calling my truck our foot in the door. That was how my family stole things. First, they mocked them. Then they renamed them. Then they acted offended when you noticed. The notary cleared her throat. Outside, one of my regulars knocked lightly on the service window. I saw his orange safety vest through the glass, but I didn't move. My father tapped the page with 2 fingers. "Sign it now, and we'll keep your name attached somehow. Maybe dessert menu. Maybe catering. You'll still be involved." "My name is already attached," I said. "It's on the license." Travis smiled like I had said something adorable. "That's just paperwork, Mara." Paperwork. The word landed in the truck like a dropped knife. Travis had always hated paperwork because paperwork remembered what charm tried to erase. Paperwork showed who paid deposits, who signed leases, who took out loans, who passed inspections, who held insurance, and who was legally responsible when grease fires, food poisoning, or unpaid vendors came knocking. Dad leaned closer. He smelled like aftershave and coffee. "This family has carried you long enough. Your brother's restaurant can actually become something respectable. A dining room, employees, a future. You can start another truck later. I almost laughed, but it would have come out wrong. Carried me. I had paid Dad's electric bill twice the year after Mom died because he kept forgetting to open envelopes. I had covered Travis's truck payment when he was between opportunities. I had catered my cousin's wedding for free because Dad promised it would be good exposure, then watched Travis take home a plate and tell guests he had designed the menu. The men outside knocked again, harder this time. I raised one hand toward them without taking my eyes off the folder. I have customers. You have family in crisis, Dad said. No, I said quietly. Travis has a funding problem. Travis's face changed first. Not fully. Just a flicker around the eyes, the way spoiled people look when the furniture talks back. He stepped forward and rested his hand on my prep counter, right where I rolled biscuit dough. You think this little truck makes you better than us now? I looked at his hand until he removed it. That made Dad angry. Not the demand, not the lie, not the notary in my kitchen before sunrise, my silence. My refusal to perform softness for people trying to corner me. He picked up the top page and held it out like he could make my fingers obey by getting closer. Your mother would be ashamed of you. That was the sentence that split the morning open. For a moment, the truck disappeared. I was 20 again, standing at Mom's funeral in a black dress from the clearance rack, listening to relatives praise Travis for being so strong because he cried loudly near the casket. I was the one who had bathed her when chemo made her too weak to lift her arms. I was the one who learned which pills went with food. I was the one she asked for when the pain broke through. But Travis looked better, grieving, so he got the sympathy. I wiped my hands on my apron slowly because I did not trust them. Don't use her. Dad's jaw worked. Then honor her. By giving Travis my business. By understanding sacrifice. There it was. The family word. Sacrifice. It always sounded holy when they said it, but somehow I was the only one ever placed on the altar. Travis needed opportunities, so I sacrificed. Dad needed peace, so I sacrificed. Relatives needed a version of our family they could admire, so I sacrificed the truth. And now they wanted my truck, my license, my livelihood wrapped in my mother's memory like stolen meat in butcher paper. The notary whispered, Dale, maybe this isn't the best time. He ignored her. Mara sign. I opened the folder again and read the first page carefully. Then the second. Then the third. My father shifted, irritated by my attention. Travis checked his watch like I was inconveniencing him. Nobody in that truck understood that reading had saved me more than once. Reading supplier contracts, reading county requirements, reading insurance exclusions, reading every line men handed me while saying, it's standard. I saw the trap in paragraph 4. Temporary surrender, asset transition, authorization to operate under related party management. If I signed, Travis could use Magnolia Maze to support his restaurant application, while I remained liable for violations. If he failed inspection, missed taxes, or poisoned half the county with improperly stored chicken salad, my name would be the one printed on the citation. I closed the folder. No. The word was small. It did not shake the windows. It did not change the weather. But it changed my father's face. You're making a mistake, he said. I've made plenty, I replied. This won't be one of them. Travis laughed once, sharp and ugly. You know what, fine. Keep your truck. But don't cry when nobody in this town wants to work with you after they hear how you treated your own family. That should have scared me. A few years earlier, it would have. Reputation matters in small counties. People remember who tipped, who cheated, who divorced, who drank, who got above themselves. But I had learned something: feeding people from a window the town always talks. The only choice is whether you live your life trying to manage the noise. Dad took the folder back and tucked it under his arm. You'll come around. No, I won't. He leaned in one last time, voice soft enough that only I could hear. Then I'll make sure you wish you had. Then he stepped down from my truck with my brother behind him, and the notary nearly tripping over the curb to follow. I watched them cross the parking lot toward Dad's pickup. Travis, already on his phone, probably turning my refusal into a story where he was the wounded one. I opened the service window with my hands still shaking and smiled at the men outside. Sorry about the wait, I said. The first customer, Mr. Hanley from the flooring plant, looked past me toward the truck. Everything all right, May? People in town called me May because of the truck, because of Mom, because names have a way of choosing who deserves to keep them. I wanted to tell him no. I wanted to say my father had just tried to gut my life before breakfast. Instead, I picked up the tongs, reached for a biscuit and said, "It will be." At 9:37, the first cancellation came in. A catering order for the Rotary Club booked 3 weeks earlier suddenly needed to go another direction. At 1012, my produce supplier texted that my account was under review. At 1105, a woman from church commented on my truck's Facebook page, "Sad when ambition matters more than family." By noon, I knew Dad had started exactly where he always started. He had gone after my name. By 3 o'clock, the rumor had shape. Mara refused to help Travis open his restaurant. Mara was jealous. Mara had forgotten where she came from. Mara was hoarding a business her father helped build. Mara was unstable, difficult, ungrateful. Every version carried a little truth-shaped hook, just enough for people to hang their judgment on it. I finished the day anyway. I served pulled pork plates to linemen, peach hand pies to nurses on break, and sweet tea to an old man who paid in quarters. I cleaned the flat top until my reflection came back in warped silver. Then I locked the window and sat on the truck floor between the cooler and the dry storage rack, letting the quiet press against my ribs. That was when my phone rang. The number was from Gordon County Environmental Health. For 1 second I thought Dad had already found a way to report me. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then I answered. "This is Mara Whitaker," I said. A woman's voice came through, steady and professional. "Miss Whitaker, this is Lena Harrow with the County Health Department. I'm calling about a request we received today, involving Magnolia May's mobile food service permit." My back went cold. She continued, "Your father and brother came in asking how to transfer operational authority to Whitaker Table Group. They stated it was a family-owned unit and that you had verbally agreed." I stood up slowly, my hand closing around the edge of the prep counter. "I told them," Miss Harrow said, "that Gordon County does not transfer a food service permit based on verbal family arrangements." Then I pulled the license file. I did not speak. Her voice changed, not warmer exactly, but more human. "Miss Whitaker, I think you need to come down here tomorrow morning. There are documents in this file your family may not realize exist." I barely slept that night. Every sound outside my apartment made me think Dad had sent someone to tow the truck, and every notification on my phone felt like another small match thrown into dry grass. By midnight, 3 more comments had appeared under my last menu post, all saying some version of the same thing. "Family first. Help your brother. Don't forget who raised you." Nobody asked why a grown man needed his sister's business to open his own. At 8:55, the next morning, I parked Magnolia Mays behind the county building and walked into Gordon County Environmental Health with my license binder pressed against my ribs. That binder was ugly gray and split at the corner from years of use, but it held everything I had learned to protect. Inspection reports, commissary agreement, fire suppression service records, insurance certificates, copies of checks, receipts. The kind of paperwork Travis called just paperwork until he needed it to pretend he was legitimate. Lena Harrow met me in the lobby. She was in her late 40s with silver threaded through her brown hair and reading glasses hanging from a chain. She did not look dramatic. She looked like someone who had spent 20 years telling restaurant owners their walk-in cooler was 2 degrees too warm and not losing sleep over their opinions. "Miss Whitaker," she said, offering a hand. "Thanks for coming in." Her office smelled like coffee and copy paper. On the wall behind her desk were framed certificates, a county map, and a faded poster about hand washing that I had seen in every kitchen in town. She closed the door, not loudly, just firmly, and placed a folder between us. It was thicker than I expected. My name was printed on the tab in black marker, Magnolia May's Mobile Food Service Unit. "They were confident," she said. "My father and brother." She nodded. "Very." That word made my stomach tighten more than anger would have. Confidence was the coat my family wore over entitlement. Dad had walked into that building, believing the county would see him as the real authority because he was older, louder, male, and used to being believed. Travis had probably smiled his clean white smile and called me emotional. They had done it so many times they forgot systems, sometimes asked for signatures instead of stories. Lena opened the folder and turned the first document toward me. "This is your original mobile food service permit application. Applicant Mara Judith Whitaker. Responsible party Mara Whitaker. Federal tax ID attached to your sole proprietorship. Commissary agreement signed by you and River Mill Kitchen. Initial plan review paid by cashier's check from your account. Every renewal since then has been filed by you. I stared at the pages. I knew all of that. I had lived all of that. Still, seeing it laid out by someone who owed my father nothing, felt like oxygen entering a room I did not know had been sealed. There was my handwriting, my careful block letters, my signature from 5 years earlier, loopier than it was now because I had still been afraid someone would stop me. They said, Lena continued, that your father funded the unit, and therefore the permit should be considered family property. He didn't fund it. I figured. She tapped another page. We don't determine ownership of business assets like a court would, but we do determine who is authorized to operate under a health permit. And legally, there is no family property on this license. There is only the permit holder. That is you. I looked down at my hands. My nails were short and clean, but fryer burns dotted the backs like small brown stars. Those hands had scrubbed the truck's water tank on winter mornings. Those hands had loaded cases of peaches alone. Those hands had signed every form, while Dad told people he had made a few calls for me. Suddenly, I felt less like I had to prove something, and more like the proof had been waiting patiently in a metal filing cabinet. Then Lena removed one more sheet older than the rest, and held it for a moment, before giving it to me. This may be personal, she said. It was included with your original application packet. It isn't required for the permit, but we kept the packet intact. It was a letter. The paper had yellowed slightly at the edges and the fold marks were deep. At the top, in handwriting I had not seen in years, was my mother's name, Magnolia Whitaker. My throat closed before I read a single sentence. Mara is opening a mobile kitchen in my name, the letter began. She paid for it herself. I am writing this because people in our family sometimes confuse help with ownership. If anyone ever claims this truck belongs to Dale or Travis, please understand that is not true. I gave my daughter my blessing, my recipes, and my name. Nothing else about her business belongs to anyone but her. I read it once, then again, then a third time slower because grief has a way of making words move around on the page. My mother had written it 2 months before she died, when I was still working on the permit and pretending I was not terrified. She had been thin, then wrapped in a quilt on the porch, telling me to add more black pepper to the sausage gravy. I did not know she had written to the county. Lena looked away while I cried. Not loudly, just 2 tears I could not stop sliding down before I could turn my face. For years Dad had used Mom like a locked door between me and my own anger. Your mother would be ashamed. Your mother believed in family. Your mother would want you to share. And all that time, somewhere in a county file, her real words had been waiting. I'm sorry, I whispered, wiping my cheek. Don't be, Lena said. You would be surprised how often paperwork tells a more honest story than people do. She gave me certified copies of the permit records and the letter. Then she explained what Dad and Travis had tried to do. They had asked whether Whitaker Table Group could operate my truck under a management arrangement while Travis's restaurant completed its inspection process. They claimed I had agreed but was too busy to come in. They asked whether my signature could be added later. Lena had told them no, then requested written authorization. That was when Travis started talking fast. Did they break the law? I asked. I'm not law enforcement, she said carefully. But from our side, no transfer is happening without your written consent. If anyone operates that unit under your permit without your approval, the permit can be suspended and citations can be issued. I'm putting a note in the file that only you may request changes. I would also suggest you notify your insurer and your commissary kitchen. That was the first practical kindness I had received in 48 hours. Not pity. Not outrage. Instructions. I could hold instructions. I thanked her and left with the certified packet tucked in my binder. Outside, Magnolia Maze sat in the county lot with morning sun flashing across the service window. For the first time since Dad walked in with that folder, the truck looked less like something they could take, and more like something I could defend. The defense became necessary by lunch. My commissary kitchen called before I made it back to the truck. River Mill Kitchen was an old brick catering facility where I stored bulk ingredients, washed pans, and filled my freshwater tank. The owner, Tom Alvarez, sounded uncomfortable. Mara, I just got a call from your dad. He said Travis would be bringing staff through for access starting Monday. He won't. There was a pause. I thought so, but Dale said there was a family transition. There isn't. Okay, Tom said, relief slipping into his voice. Send me something in writing. I'll note that only you have access. I sent the email from the parking lot, with Lena's instructions still open beside me. Then I called my insurance agent. Then the supplier. Then the bank. Every call took time I did not have, and every call forced me to say out loud that my father and brother were attempting to misrepresent their authority over my business. By the fourth call, I stopped shaking. By the seventh, I stopped apologizing. That afternoon, Travis posted a video. He stood inside the unfinished dining room of his future restaurant, all exposed brick Edison bulbs and stacked chairs. Behind him, a sign leaned against the wall reading Whitaker Table. He wore the same spotless chef's coat and looked exhausted in a way that seemed rehearsed. Hard day, he said to the camera. Sometimes the people closest to you don't believe in your dream, but we're moving forward with or without support. He never said my name. He did not have to. By evening, people had shared it 37 times. The comments were full of prayer hands and heart emojis. Proud of you, Travis. Keep going. Some people can't stand to see others rise. Your mama would be so proud. I sat in the truck after closing and watched strangers comfort my brother for failing to steal from me. The next morning, Dad came by again. This time, he didn't bring a notary. He came alone, wearing his church polo and the expression he used when he wanted to seem wounded instead of cruel. I was parked near the textile plant, with a line already forming for breakfast sandwiches. Dad waited until the first rush thinned before stepping up to the window. He did not order anything. You embarrassed your brother at the county office, he said. I kept wiping the counter. No, he embarrassed himself. His eyes moved to the customers standing nearby, then back to me. He lowered his voice. You need to fix this before Thursday. What happens Thursday? Investor dinner. They want to see the restaurant, meet the family, taste the menu. Travis promised a soft launch menu from the truck. I looked at him. Dad looked back like I was supposed to understand that his emergency had become my obligation. He already printed the materials. That was the moment I saw how far they had gone. Not asked, not hoped, promised. Travis had told investors he had access to my truck before I ever said yes, because in his mind my answer was a scheduling detail. My consent was a formality. My business was inventory sitting in the wrong person's hands. No, I said. Dad's face hardened. You keep saying that like it won't have consequences. It already has consequences. You think a few forms make you untouchable? No, I said, leaning closer to the window. I think the forms mean you don't get to lie for free. For a second, something honest passed through his face. Not guilt, fear. It was gone, quickly covered by anger, but I saw it. He had believed I would break before I documented anything. He had counted on the old Mara, the one who cried in bathrooms and came back smiling because the family needed peace. He did not know what to do with the woman who called the insurance company before noon. He stepped back and raised his voice just enough for the two men at the end of the line to hear. All this over a food truck. The words were meant to shrink me. I knew because he had done it before. All this over a job. All this over a bedroom. All this over a recipe. All this over a truck. Reduce the thing someone loves until defending it looks ridiculous. Make survival sound petty. Make theft sound reasonable. I handed a bag through the window to the next customer, then turned back to him. Yes, I said. All this over the food truck I own. Dad left without another word, but the damage did not stop. That week, my health rating was questioned online by people who had never eaten from my truck. Someone reported that I parked too close to a hydrant, even though the hydrant was half a block away. A catering client asked if there was family litigation they should be concerned about. Travis's friends drove by laughing one afternoon and filmed themselves pretending to inspect my tires. I wanted to respond. I wanted to post the letter, the license, the receipts, every page that proved I was not what they were saying. But Lena's voice stayed in my head. Keep it clean. Keep it written. Keep the file stronger than the rumor. So I documented everything. Screenshots, dates, times, names. I printed emails and put them in the gray binder. When people lied, I let them create records. On Thursday evening, Travis held his investor dinner. I knew because half the county posted about it. White tablecloths, mason jar centerpieces, a chalkboard menu with words like heritage, family roots, and magnolia biscuits written in Travis's neat restaurant handwriting. He had put my mother's name on the menu. Not Magnolia Maize exactly, but close enough to sting. Maggie's buttermilk biscuits. Mama's pepper gravy. Whitaker family peach hand pies. My phone buzzed while I was cleaning the fryer. It was a photo from Lacey, my friend, who owned the salon and had never once believed Travis's charm. The message underneath said, "You need to see this." In the photo, Travis stood beside Dad in the unfinished dining room, smiling at a small crowd of investors and local business owners. Behind him, projected on a wall, was a slide titled Mobile Kitchen Expansion Plan. In the corner was a picture of Magnolia Maze. My truck. My mother's flower. My name cropped out of the frame. I sat down slowly on the metal step by the back door. For a moment, the anger was so clean and bright that it frightened me. They were not just trying to borrow the truck anymore, they were selling the idea of it. They were using my years of work as proof of Travis's future. They had turned my survival into his pitch deck. Then another message came in from Lacey. "There's more." The second photo showed the final slide. Whitaker Table Group, family-owned mobile and brick-and-mortar dining. Under assets in clean black letters it listed Magnolia Maze Mobile Food Unit, county-permitted, active customer base, established local brand. I stopped breathing for 1 second. Not because they had lied. I already knew they lied. Because now they had written it down. I printed Lacey's photos before midnight. Not because I needed them on paper, but because paper made the lie feel less slippery. Digital things could be deleted, cropped, explained away as misunderstanding. A printed slide with my truck listed under Travis's assets sat heavy in my hands. It had corners, it had ink, it had weight. I placed it behind the county file, behind my mother's letter, behind the screenshot of his video, and wrote the date in black pen. The next morning, I did not open Magnolia Maze. I posted a simple notice saying I would be closed for private catering prep, then drove to Rivermill Kitchen, with my binder on the passenger seat. Tom Alvarez met me by the loading dock, wiping his hands on a towel. He was a big man with tired eyes and the calm of someone who had seen chefs throw tantrums over parsley. "I saw the pictures," he said. "Lacey sent them." "I didn't give him permission to use the truck in his pitch," I said. "I know." Those 2 words almost broke me more than the betrayal. I know. Not prove it. Not are you sure. Not maybe your dad meant well. Just, I know. Tom led me into his office where the old refrigerator hummed, and invoices were stacked beside a coffee mug that said, "Kiss the cook or pay the bill." He pulled a file from his cabinet and set it on the desk. "This is your commissary agreement," he said. "Only you are authorized. I added a written note yesterday after your email. If anyone tries to bring that truck here, fill tanks, dump wastewater, or store food under your account, my staff won't allow it." I nodded, but my mind had already moved ahead. "Can you write that for me?" He did not ask why. He opened his laptop. "Give me 10 minutes. While he typed, I called Lena Harrow and left a message. Then I called my insurance agent and asked for a written statement that Magnolia Maze policy covered only operations conducted by me or employees I approved. Then I called my bank and requested copies of the cashier's checks I had used for the original build-out. Each call made my voice steadier. The binder was no longer just proof. It was becoming a wall. Lena called back at 1120. I told her about Travis's investor dinner, the slides, the claim that Magnolia Maze was part of Whitaker Table Group. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Send me the images. I can't involve myself in family disputes, but if he is representing a permitted food unit as part of a restaurant operation that touches our office." "What does that mean?" "It means I may need to be present at his pre-opening inspection." His inspection. I had forgotten it was scheduled. Travis had been talking about Thursday's dinner, like the only obstacle was my selfishness, but restaurants did not open because people clapped at a slideshow. They opened after inspectors looked inside, coolers, checked hand sinks, reviewed food sources, examined procedures, and decided whether the public could safely eat there. Charm did not sanitize cutting boards. Family pride did not calibrate thermometers. "When is it?" I asked. "Monday at 2. Monday gave me 3 days. 3 days to decide whether to stay quiet, whether to release the truth online, whether to walk into that inspection and hand my family the public humiliation they had earned. Part of me wanted to burn everything down immediately. Another part, the older part, trained by years of consequences, whispered that if I moved too fast, Dad would call me dramatic, and Travis would call me jealous. So I waited. But waiting was not the same as doing nothing. On Saturday, Dad left me a voicemail. I did not answer because some voices are easier to survive when you control when they enter the room. I played it after closing, standing alone in the truck with the hood vent ticking above me. Mara, he said, already exhausted by his own anger. This has gone far enough. Travis has people counting on him. Jobs. Investors. Our family name. You need to stop punishing everyone because you feel overlooked. I saved the voicemail. 2 minutes later, another one came in. This time his voice was lower. Your mother hated conflict. She would hate what you're doing. If you show up Monday and make trouble, don't expect to be welcome at Christmas. Don't expect me to explain you to people anymore. You want to be alone so bad, I'll let you. I saved that one too. The threat landed somewhere old, but it did not land as deep as it used to. There was a time when being unwelcome at Christmas would have made me fold in half. I used to arrive early, bring pies, wash dishes, laugh at jokes that cut me open, and leave with leftovers I did not want, because I was afraid an empty passenger seat meant I had failed at belonging. But Dad had confused access with love for too long. On Sunday, Travis came to the truck. I was parked near the farmer's market, finishing lunch service. He walked up wearing sunglasses and a navy jacket, looking less like a chef and more like a man trying to get photographed near one. He waited until the line cleared, then leaned against the side of the truck beneath my mother's painted magnolia. His smile was thin. You're really enjoying this, aren't you? No, I said. I'm working. You think you're making some grand stand, but you're going to look ridiculous when everyone hears the whole story. The whole story would be refreshing. His smile disappeared. Dad told me you went crying to the county. I answered a phone call from the county after you lied to them. He pushed his sunglasses up onto his head. For the first time in years, I saw the boy under the performance. Not innocent, just cornered. You don't understand what's at stake. If I lose these investors, I'm done. The building lease, the deposits, the equipment, everything. This is my shot. And your plan was to use my business to make it look safer than it was. I was going to make you part of it later. Later, I repeated. You always do this, he snapped. You take everything personally. Dad helps you and you act like you built Rome alone. I mention the truck to investors, and suddenly I'm some criminal. You could have been generous for once. Generous. There was another family word, polished and hollow. They had called me generous when I paid bills they forgot, when I cooked free meals, when I let Travis take credit because correcting him would spoil the evening. But generosity that cannot say no is not generosity. It is being trained to disappear. I have been generous, I said. You mistook it for weakness. His face flushed. You better be careful, Mara. No, Travis. You should have been careful before putting my truck in your investor materials. He looked toward the street, jaw tight. Those photos don't prove anything. I didn't say they did. That unsettled him. I watched him try to read my expression, looking for the old panic. I gave him nothing. Not anger. Not fear. Just the same neutral face I used when a customer complained the hot chicken was too hot. He stepped back from the truck and laughed under his breath, but it came out wrong. You're going to regret choosing paperwork over blood. I closed the service window gently. Monday came bright and dry, the kind of pretty Georgia day that made ugly things look staged. I did not open for breakfast. I cleaned the truck until the counters shone, then dressed in black slacks, a white blouse, and the denim jacket my mother had embroidered with a tiny magnolia on the cuff. I put the gray binder in a canvas bag. Then I drove to Whitaker Table. The restaurant sat in a renovated building downtown with big front windows and a fresh sign Travis must have paid too much for. Whitaker Table was painted in warm cream letters over the door. Through the glass I could see Edison bulbs glowing even in daylight, empty tables set with folded napkins, and Dad pacing near the hostess stand like he owned the oxygen. I parked across the street and stayed in my truck for 5 minutes. Not because I was afraid to go in, because I needed to remember why I was there. Not revenge, not humiliation, not even fairness. I was there because my name was attached to food people put in their mouths. I was there because my mother's name was on the side of my truck, and now on Travis's fake heritage menu. I was there because boundaries do not become real until you defend them when it costs you. At 157, Lena Harrow pulled into the parking space behind me. She stepped out with a clipboard and a county badge clipped to her jacket. She saw me and gave a small nod, not friendly enough to seem biased, not cold enough to feel alone. Miss Whitaker, she said. You're here as the permit holder for Magnolia Maze. Yes. Then stay factual. Answer only what's asked. Let them talk if they want to. That sounded like good advice for an inspection and a family. Inside, Travis saw Lena first and straightened. Then he saw me behind her. The color left his face, but he recovered quickly. He smiled for the two men in suits standing near the bar. Investors, probably. One was older, with silver hair and a watch that looked like a mortgage payment. The other was younger, scrolling his phone until the room shifted. Dad crossed the dining room fast. What is she doing here? Lena did not blink. Miss Whitaker is the permit holder for Magnolia Maze Mobile Food Service Unit. Since that unit was referenced in documents related to this restaurant operation, I asked her to be available. Travis laughed lightly, performing confusion. There's been a misunderstanding. Magnolia Maze is a family brand. Mara runs the truck day to day, but we're all Whitakers here. The older investor looked at me for the first time. Dad stepped closer, lowering his voice. Go home. I held the binder with both hands. No. The inspection began in the kitchen, but the real examination was happening in everyone's faces. Lena checked hand, sinks, thermometers, storage sanitizer strips, refrigeration logs. Travis followed her, talking too much. He explained concepts nobody asked about. He used words like heritage and community, while failing to answer where certain prepared items would be produced before final approval. Then, Lena asked, will any food served during your soft opening be prepared in Magnolia Maze Mobile Food Service Unit? Travis glanced at Dad. Dad answered for him. The truck is available to the family. Lena wrote something on her clipboard. That was not my question. The room went very quiet. Travis cleared his throat. We intended to collaborate with Mara. Do you have a written agreement? He smiled again, but it was weaker. We're siblings. We were finalizing details. Do you have a written agreement? Lena repeated. No, Travis said. Do you have authorization from Miss Whitaker to operate, store food and advertise, borrow, represent, or include Magnolia Maze as an asset of Whitaker Table Group? Travis said nothing. Dad's voice cut in. This is a family matter. Lena finally looked at him. No, Mr. Whitaker, this is a food service licensing matter. I felt those words move through the room like a door unlocking. The older investor took one step forward. Travis, our packet stated the mobile unit was part of the launch plan. It is, Travis said quickly. It was. It's complicated. It is not complicated, I said. Everyone turned. My voice did not sound like I expected. It was calm. Too calm, maybe. But inside, something that had been curled tight for years was standing upright. I opened the gray binder and removed the first certified document. Magnolia Maze is permitted under my name only. I am the responsible party owner-operator, insured operator, and sole authorized person on the commissary agreement. I did not consent to my truck being used, transferred, advertised, pledged, or represented as part of Travis's restaurant. Dad stared at me like I had slapped him. I placed the next page on the nearest table. This is from Gordon County Environmental Health. This is from my commissary kitchen. This is from my insurance agent. And these are photos from your investor presentation listing my food truck as a Whitaker Table Group asset. The younger investor stopped scrolling. Travis's mouth opened, then closed. Mara, don't do this. He said it softly enough that for 1 second he sounded like a brother. That was the cruelest part. They always found tenderness when consequences entered the room, not when they hurt you, not when they lied, only when you held up a mirror. Dad pointed at the binder. You came prepared to destroy him. No, I said. He came prepared to use me. I came prepared to stop him. Lena did not speak, but she did not stop me either. The older investor picked up the printed slide and read it slowly. County permitted, active customer base, established local brand. His eyes moved to Travis. You told us your sister had agreed. She was going to, Travis said. The sentence hung there naked and stupid. The investor lowered the page. That is not the same thing. For the first time in my life, I watched someone outside the family refuse to translate Travis's intention into innocence. He tried to recover. He talked about confusion, timing, emotional miscommunication, family dynamics, my resentment, Dad's understanding of the business. Each excuse made the room colder. Each word dug him deeper, because the binder did not argue back. It simply waited. Then Lena asked one final question. Mr. Whitaker, have you accepted deposits, investor funds, or vendor agreements based on access to Magnolia Maze? Travis looked at Dad. Dad looked away. And in that silence, the entire room understood there was more to inspect than the kitchen. Travis swallowed so hard I saw his throat move. For 3 seconds, nobody spoke. The restaurant's kitchen hummed behind us, brand new refrigerators holding food that suddenly seemed less important than the lie sitting in the dining room. Dad's face had gone dark red, and his hands curled at his sides like he wanted to grab the whole moment and shove it back into silence. The older investor set the printed slide on the table. Answer the question, Travis. Travis looked at me then, not with apology, not really. He looked at me the way someone looks at a locked door after assuming all his life it would open. We had commitments based on the full launch plan, he said. The truck was part of the plan. No, I said. The truck was part of your lie. Dad stepped between us. That is enough. Lena Harrow's pen paused over her clipboard. Mr. Whitaker, do not interfere with this inspection. Something about her voice changed the room. Dad was used to daughters lowering their eyes, church friends giving him the benefit of the doubt, and relatives treating his temper like weather. He was not used to a county health inspector telling him where his authority ended. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. For once, the room did not rearrange itself around his anger. The younger investor, whose name I later learned was Graham, pulled a folder from his leather bag. Travis, the prospectus you gave us lists Magnolia Maze under available operating assets. You also projected first quarter revenue using the truck's current customer base. Were those numbers based on actual access or assumed access? Travis rubbed a hand over his jaw. Mara and I had talked. No, we hadn't, I said. Dad turned on me. You want him ruined over a misunderstanding. I looked at my father for a long moment. I thought of all the times he had called my pain a misunderstanding, because that word required no apology. A misunderstanding was clean. A misunderstanding had no villain. A misunderstanding, let the person with power keep it. A misunderstanding is when someone hears the wrong pickup time, I said. This was a business claim made without permission. The older investor asked quietly. Is your mother's recipe branding also unauthorized? That question hit harder than I expected. Travis went still. Dad's eyes dropped to the floor. On one of the sample menus stacked near the bar, I could see the words Maggie's Biscuits printed in soft brown ink like nostalgia could be designed. My mother's name had become a decoration for a restaurant she had never approved attached to a son who had barely sat with her when she was dying. I opened the binder again and pulled out the certified copy of her letter. My fingers trembled once, then steadied. My mother gave me her recipes and her blessing for Magnolia Maze. She wrote this before she died and included it with my original application packet. I didn't know it existed until Miss Harrow showed me. Dad's head snapped up. What letter? I placed it on the table, but I did not hand it to him. The one where she said, people in our family confuse help with ownership. The room went silent in a different way then. Not legal silence. Not business silence. Family silence. The kind that holds all the things everyone suspected but nobody wanted written down. Dad stared at the paper as if my mother had walked into the restaurant and stood beside me. Travis would not look at it. I read only the line that mattered. If anyone ever claims this truck belongs to Dale or Travis, please understand that is not true. Dad whispered. She wouldn't have written that. She did. She was sick. She was clear. His face twisted, and for 1 second I saw grief under the anger. But grief does not excuse theft. Missing someone does not give you ownership over the daughter she protected. He reached for the letter and I moved it back before his fingers touched it. This is a certified copy, I said. The original stays with the county file. Lena added, that is correct. Travis let out a bitter laugh, small and broken. So what now? You got your moment. Congratulations, Mara. You proved the lunch truck is yours in front of everyone. No, I said. I proved you knew it wasn't yours when you sold it. The older investor closed his folder. That sound was soft, but it landed like a verdict. We are withdrawing from the funding round pending review of all representations made by Whitaker Table Group. Graham nodded. Same here. We'll need copies of the materials already distributed and we'll be speaking with our attorney before any further conversation. Travis stepped toward them. Wait. This is fixable. The older man looked around the unfinished dining room, then back at him. Food safety issues are fixable. Equipment delays are fixable. A founder misrepresenting core assets before opening day is a different problem. Dad tried one last time. Gentlemen families have disagreements. My daughter has always been emotional about. Do not finish that sentence, I said. My voice did not rise. It did not need to. Dad looked at me and I saw the exact moment he realized I was no longer afraid of being called difficult. Difficult had fed me. Difficult had paid my insurance. Difficult had kept my name off Travis's violations. Difficult had brought a binder into a room full of men who expected my silence. Lena returned to her inspection because government work has its own rhythm even when families collapse nearby. She noted missing written procedures for off-site food preparation, uncertainty in supply documentation, and improper reliance on an unaffiliated mobile unit. She did not dramatize it. She did not need to. By the time she finished, Whitaker table had not passed for opening approval. Travis stood in the middle of his beautiful empty restaurant with his chef's coat wrinkled at the sleeves. Dad leaned on the bar as if his legs had finally remembered his age. The investors left without shaking hands. The sample menus stayed stacked on the counter, my mother's name printed on every one of them like evidence. As Lena packed her clipboard, she looked at me. Miss Whitaker, I recommend you send a written cease and desist regarding use of your business name, brand likeness recipes, and mobile unit in promotional materials. I cannot give legal advice, but you should protect your operation. I will, I said. Dad laughed under his breath. Now you're bringing lawyers into family. I put the binder back in my canvas bag. You brought my business into your lie. Travis's eyes were red now, but I did not let that move me. I had mistaken his tears for remorse too many times. You could still help, he said. If you would just let us use the truck for a few months, I could recover. We could make an agreement. I'll give you credit. Credit. After everything, he still thought credit was payment for ownership. I looked at him and remembered him at Mom's funeral, accepting casseroles from women who thought grief was measured by volume. I remembered him standing in my truck, calling my life a lunch wagon. I remembered the slide with my name cropped out. No, I said. Dad's voice cracked like a whip. Then you are no daughter of mine. The old wound opened. I will not pretend it didn't. Some sentences hurt even when you know they are weapons. My breath caught, and for a moment I was 10 years old again, trying to be useful enough to be chosen. Then my fingers brushed the embroidered magnolia on my jacket cuff, and I remembered whose daughter I had always been. I am Mom's daughter, I said. That is enough. I walked out before either of them could answer. The aftermath did not explode all at once. It unfolded like a stain spreading through clean water. By Tuesday morning, Travis had deleted the video about unsupported dreams. By Wednesday, Whitaker Table's social pages had removed every photo of Magnolia Maze. By Friday, 2 vendors paused their contracts. The investors requested documentation. The landlord wanted reassurance. People in town still talked, but the story had changed shape. Lacey told me the salon version first. Apparently Mara had not been jealous. Apparently Travis had listed her truck as collateral without consent. Apparently Dale had tried to push the county around and lost. I did not correct every detail. I had spent too many years trying to control rumors that did not deserve my breath. This time, the truth had paperwork, and paperwork traveled slower than gossip, but stayed longer. I hired an attorney in Dalton to send a formal letter. Nothing theatrical. Just clean language demanding that Whitaker Table Group stop using Magnolia May's name, likeness, recipes, customer base images, and operating permit in any business representation. The letter also required written correction to anyone who had received materials claiming my truck was part of Travis's launch plan. Travis sent one text after that. It said, "Hope you're happy." I stared at it while sitting inside the truck before lunch service. I thought about typing back a paragraph. I thought about explaining that happiness was not the point. Protection was. Truth was. Peace was. Instead, I deleted the message and blocked his number. For the first time in my life, I did not feel rude doing it. Dad did not call for 2 weeks. Then he left a voicemail on a Sunday evening. His voice sounded smaller but not softer. "Your brother may lose the building. You need to think about what you've done." I saved it not because I needed more proof but because I wanted to remember the pattern clearly. Even after the lie collapsed, he still spoke as if my refusal had caused the damage. He still believed Travis's consequences belonged on my invoice. I did not call him back. Magnolia Maze got busier after that, not immediately, but steadily. Some people came because they had heard the drama. Some came because they wanted to support me. Most came because the food was good and the line moved fast. Mr. Hanley from the flooring plant ordered his usual biscuit and said, "Glad you kept the name on the truck." I smiled so hard I had to turn away. 1 month later, I painted the magnolia on the side panel again. The old one had faded from sun and highway dust, so I hired a local artist to restore it. This time beneath the flower, I added one small line in gold script, owned and operated by Mara Whitaker. It was not flashy. It was not angry. Just 7-dation. But every time I unlocked the truck in the dark morning, those words greeted me like a hand on my shoulder. The strangest part of healing is that it does not always feel soft. Sometimes healing is a certified copy in a gray binder. Sometimes it is an unanswered voicemail. Sometimes it is standing in a restaurant while your father calls you emotional and realizing you are the calmest person in the room. Sometimes it is letting people be disappointed because their disappointment no longer outranks your survival. I used to think being loved meant being easy to include, easy to ask, easy to guilt, easy to use. My family taught me that saying no was selfish, but they only taught me that because my yes had been profitable. Once I stopped paying in silence, they called it betrayal. That told me everything I needed to know. My mother did not leave me money. She did not leave me property, or a safety net, or a family that knew how to protect me. But she left me recipes, a name, and one letter in a county file that reminded me I was not crazy for knowing what was mine. Sometimes love is not loud. Sometimes it signs its name quietly, and waits years to defend you. I still drive Magnolia Maze through Gordon County before sunrise. I still burn my wrists sometimes. I still smell like fryer oil by noon. But now when someone tells me family comes first, I ask which kind of family they mean. The kind that demands your keys or the kind that helps you lock the door. Because my father demanded I sign over my food truck to fund my brother's restaurant. But he forgot one thing. The license had my name on it.